What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Reseller Greatness Podcast. We have kind of like a bucket list guest. I've been trying to get on my main man for a little while. This is my longest, most repeatable customer. I've known him for the longest. I have done the most amount of business with him. He is 1 out of 10 good guys. That's the first thing I ever told him. I said, you know what? 9 out of 10 people in this game are complete pieces of. I hope you're 1 out of 10. And I can safely say from the jump, this guy is 1 out of 10. This is someone that I have met on the computer and know in real life. This is a good guy, a legend in the game. Tons of knowledge. Some of you may remember him from an early video that we did was the best rap tea haul in history. And it is the best rap tea haul in history. And you said every time you go to the red, white, and blue, someone recognizes you from the video. So I hope after this podcast, you go to the grocery store and people start to recognize you, because I want so many people to see what we have to say and what, more importantly, what you have to say, the knowledge that you have contained, and you have always, you are one of the people that I go to when I have a question, when I need help. And there's a very, very small amount of people that I go to, and you're one of them. So without further ado, it is an absolute honor and a pleasure. And I am so thankful that you woke up, drove all the way to your store, jumped on Zoom when you don't even know how Zoom works.
I don't,
Jumped
man.
on here to talk to me and talk to the fine folks at home. So without further ado, Full Court Classic on Instagram. You can find him there, better known as Corby, legend in the game. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you got started in this, and what you got going on. Thank you very much for being on, my man.
What's up, man? Glad to be here. So I'm from the west coast of Florida, Pinellas County. It's like right in the middle. Um, been selling clothing, never done anything else in my life. Started working at a skateboard shop when I was 14, illegally. I was sweeping the floors, getting paid under the table. It was a beautiful time in skateboarding. And it all kind of started from there, man. We were the first skate shop on the East Coast to get a Nike SB account. So that kind of launched my, it was very rare at the time. So that kind of launched my online dabbling in reselling. So basically everything I do now kind of stemmed from that. And yeah, man, I mean, I discovered vintage probably close to 15 years ago. I was selling, skate gear, Nike SB, etc. on eBay, anything I could do to make a couple bucks. And I walked into a thrift store randomly out on the causeway and found a polo hat. And I was like, man, this hat's really cool. So this was pre-Instagram. I mean, Instagram exists, I'm sure, but this is before I was on Instagram. Looked it up on eBay and was like, wow, man, polo hats go for 50 bucks. Like, this is crazy. So then it got me thinking. I bought the hat. I sold it on eBay. It sold in like 2 hours. I think I got like 45 bucks for it. That got me thinking. I was like, damn, man, like I know my dad wore all of this stuff back then. So my first real dig was my dad's closet. And I went
Whoa.
through, I found a bunch of like old Agassi gear. He was a tennis player in the 90s. Found a bunch of old polo gear. Growing up in Florida, polo, it was sold heavily here.
Yeah.
A lot of like boating, esque items. And yeah, man, it kind of all stemmed from that, dude. Started selling on eBay. Met my wife, and she started helping me like right off the bat. We lived in a villa at the time, and basically like my eBay inventory outgrew our villa. It was in,
We all
it
been
was
there.
it was in the living room. It was all over our room. I mean, dude, at like the biggest point, dude, it was in like my kids' rooms, dude. I had like a rack of like jackets in like my kids' room. And I was just like, dude, I got to do something,
Yeah.
And that's when I opened the first store, man. And it all kind of went from there.
And the first store I went to, and that was before. Now a lot of people have stores. I mean, I even have a store at this rate. So That was way before, a lot of people were jumping in stores. And we've talked before. This was around kind of like the F as in Frank era, the Sean Round 2 era. You were right in the beginning in the forefront of doing the store. So you had this idea to open up a brick and mortar store. Around what year was the first one opened? It was over in Clearwater, right?
Yeah, I want to say it was 15. But the first store wasn't in Clearwater. It was where I live, north of Clearwater.
All
The
right. So it
first
was
store was
even,
literally just like basically like a storage unit. It was a real store. It had a door. Dude, I was running like card sales through a PayPal reader.
that's
I
right.
wasn't paying sales tax. I don't care. You can go back and hit me. I don't care if an IRS person's watching this, whatever. I wasn't paying sales tax. I wasn't paying myself correctly. Like
Yeah.
I learned all of that the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting.
So like 2015, like it doesn't seem that long ago, but it was a long time ago. I mean, COVID was like 5 years ago, and that seems like a lifetime ago. So
Yeah,
like we're
for
talking
sure.
like two lifetimes ago before
Yeah,
that. How did you get the word out that you had stuff for sale? Like this is the infancy of Instagram.
yeah,
I know you used Instagram as a very valuable tool because you had 50,000, 60,000 followers way before people had 50 and 60,000 followers. So I
yeah.
want to talk a little bit about that, but also the one of the first things I learned when I opened up a brick and mortar store, and you helped me a lot with this during when I was opening it, was that if no one walks in the door, I don't make any money. If people
Yeah.
walk in the door, I make money. So your first store, 2015 or before, how did you get the word out that you had a store, that you had stuff for sale? And it's the same as if you're listing on eBay. You are on eBay with a megaphone telling people that your door is open, using keywords, using proper search terms in order to get people in the door. But eBay does a lot of the heavy lifting. They do a lot of the
Yeah.
marketing. They bring the customers. In the early days, how were you bringing customers into the store?
So the early days, the very first store that I was saying was literally just like a shoebox filled with Z-Racks, bins under the Z-Racks. Everything was listed on eBay. That store was basically just like it wasn't appointment only. Like I had hours that I was like designated to be there. And even at the end of that store, I had an employee. But that store was basically like my eBay facility. I
Gotcha.
did a lot of wholesaling out of there. I did all of my original like Instagram photos where like I learned how to take like a photo of 40 North Face jackets. Like I did that in like the parking lot of that store. People were looking at me like I was insane. I was out there on a ladder like in October, it was 80 degrees, and I'm taking a photo of 40 North Face jackets. These like old ladies working at a title spot were like, this
In
is crazy.
2024, nobody would bat an eye at a guy on a ladder
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
pictures for social media. But
yeah,
10 years ago, you
yeah.
must look
I
crazy.
looked crazy for sure. And I wasn't the first person doing that, but like I'm not taking like any flowers or anything, but like it was early. Like
Yeah,
I was like trying to figure out how to make 40 jackets fit in a frame to fit on Instagram.
right.
And like I learned all that in that first store, dude. Like how to take a cool photo of clothing. And yeah, I mean, I owe a lot to that first store, but it was basically like word of mouth, Instagram. I was in like a real crappy area. Like it's where my house is. It's not a crappy area. It's a great area. It's like a beach community,
But a
but
bad area for retail.
it's a bad area for retail. It's a
Yeah.
bad area for trying to sell a $50 t-shirt that's used. People don't get that.
All right. So, was this before or after or around the same time that you would say you started buying from me on eBay?
This was that time.
All right.
This
So,
was that time. This is when I would go, and I mean, there's no secret anymore, so I'll just go ahead and share this information. This is when I would go on eBay. I would say, I'm gonna spend $1,000 and I would buy 40 Tommy Hilfiger pieces or 50 Tommy Hilfiger pieces or whatever it was that because I had no money. You know what I mean? Like instead of taking $1,000 and saying this is my money to go source for the month in a thrift store, I would go on eBay and I would buy exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
That was like my method. I was like, I still thrifted and I still dug and I still like that's what I love to do. But I knew to gain early on, I knew to gain a social media following, like I was gonna post what I wanted to post. Even if I bought a Tommy Hilfiger jacket off of you for 50 bucks and sold it for 60, I knew that if I was consistent enough, and I mean, dude, I was like regimented early social media days, dude. Like I posted at 9 in the morning and I posted at 7 at night every day for like 3 years. And that is how I gained my social media following. And I was very specific on what I posted. You know what I mean? Like I would post crazy things that I found in like a thrift store or digging or whatever. But if I was posting like a flat lay photo, it was never of like a $30 t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like I never posted that on Instagram. It was always like my whole thing was like if I want to look at a photo on the internet, I want to look at something I've never seen before. So
Mm.
like that was my whole mindset of Instagram from like the very beginning.
And, in my humble opinion, you have the most beautiful photographs on all of your stores on your Instagram. Like they are the most beautiful photographs. And I think it's a great resource to learn about vintage and about what's cool and about what's going to be cool. Because you've always kind of been at the forefront of that stuff as well. But we'll get into that later. But the photographs are beautiful, they're immaculate for your store, for your personal, for your Houston store. We'll get into all of these. You have multiple stores, multiple locations. You have your biggest flex, in my opinion, is you have raised a family with 4 kids, only selling clothing and never having a quote unquote real job, selling at the brick and mortar store. And you have a beautiful house. I don't know if it has a picket fence in front of it, but it has some sort of picket-esque fence in front of the house. It is the quintessential American house, little shutters on the windows, and you have raised
Yes.
4 kids selling nothing but clothing your
Yeah.
entire life. You're with the help of your wife, but
Yeah.
you guys have totally crushed it, lived the full court dream, that is for
Yeah.
sure. So the
Very
photographs
blessed,
that you
man, and
put out
grateful.
are immaculate. Growing to know you, you are very meticulous. You are very at times for me a little bit difficult to help, but
Sure.
that's your thing, and that is how you found success. And I don't say that negatively. I say that out of respect, where
Sure.
I respect how meticulous you are. I respect how choosy you are. So I remember, let's stay back in the old days. I remember I would go to the flea market. And at the flea market, I would always found an item. And this was kind of the early days of my time too. So you and I, we kind of got started around the same time doing this. Your avenue was brick and mortar and eBay. My avenue was just eBay at the time. And I know I would go to the flea market, and I was still learning too. I would go to the flea market and I would find a cool Tommy Hilfiger, very colorful nylon hat. And I knew it was worth money. And I knew when I picked it up, Full Core Classics was going to buy this for me on eBay.
For
I would
sure.
list it, bang, Full Core Classics would buy it. I would send it off in the mail. The next week, I would find a Tommy Hilfiger jacket that Drake wore, and I would list it, bang, Full Core Classics would sell it. And I always saw it said Sarasota on the profile. And Florida's a little bit different. It's kind of a little bit separated. I'm on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast. It's two totally different worlds, but I knew we were in the same kind of ballpark somewhere. And guys, we're going back 14, 13, 15 years at this point.
Yeah.
So I knew I was picking up items, I would photograph them, and Full Court Classics would come through and buy. Always respectable payment, always no problem, never had an issue with them. And then one time I was doing something and I was scrolling, and on my recommended page, it smacked me like a ton of bricks and it said Full Court Classics. And I made the connection and go, wait a second, this is the same guy. Because this was before like everyone was the same everywhere. So like it was Full Court Classics on eBay, it was Full Court Classics on Instagram, and I remember scrolling your page, and I was like, wow, this guy has so much awesome stuff. And I
It's
would
probably
scroll
a
and be
lot of
like,
stuff that came from you, you know?
yeah, I was scrolling and be like, oh, that one came from me, that one came from me, that
Yeah.
one came from me. And I'm not hating, I don't care. I thought it was awesome. And I saw that you had a store. And I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool too, where like I'm telling you guys, back then no one had vintage stores. So like I probably found you um when you had the store that was in the corner with the black sign, and that
Nah, I
was
don't think so. I
that
don't
was
think so. I think it was before that, man. I think it was the original store that I was telling you about that was literally like a hallway.
well, I found you on Instagram. I followed you on Instagram, but I never said anything to you for a
Yeah.
long time. And I think I don't think it was that store. It might have been, or it might have been the store in the corner, which was kind of like your quote unquote first real store. That one
Yeah,
had.
that was the first real store.
All right, so tell us about the first real store. It was in I went there. It was in a shopping center that's everywhere in America. There was a Walgreens on the corner that
Yep.
I think closed down and now is a beauty supply store, something
Yep.
like that. It,
Yep.
it, it was in an L-shaped plaza with a
Yep.
green aluminum roof,
Yep.
and you were in the corner.
Yep.
Not the best spot, but you made it
No.
happen.
No. It was like going from like elementary school to like middle school. You know what I mean? Like it was a
That's
real
a great way
store.
of putting it.
We had a cash register, you know what I mean? We paid sales tax.
Yep.
We had a LLC. It was the beginning of having a real store. No foot traffic. No foot traffic still. Everything was Instagram, pound it into the local people's faces every day, posting something that I think that you need, whatever. Um, at that time, I had a pretty much full-time employee. That's when we got our website cranking, and that's what like funded that store was our website.
The
At one
website.
time, we're just getting back into it now, but we had a very successful website, man. I mean, I was still on the 9 and 7 thing, posting twice a day. And dude, I would post a $300 polo piece at 9 o'clock in the morning, and 9 times out of 10, it was sold by 9:05. So,
Wow.
like, when you can do that, and I'm very blessed to say that I could do that for a really long time. When you can do that, it kind of funds
Sure.
everything. It kind of
Sure.
like gets your day going. When you can start your day at $200 at 9 in the morning, it kind of is like the cheat code. And that was just basically because of the social media following.
So from social media, Full Court Classic on Instagram, you would funnel people to fullcourtclassics.com to make the
Yeah.
purchase. And then
This was
through
before this was before you could even add a link to like a story.
That's right.
You couldn't even add a link. You would have to say the link is in the bio. And
Yeah.
you have to like go to my page, click on the bio, and I would make sure whatever I posted for that day was like the first thing you saw.
Mm.
And I would do that 5 times a week, dude. In the summer, it would be 5 t-shirts. In the winter, fall, it would be 5 outerwear pieces. I would do it 5 days a week.
So that was funding the store, which is smart. So you would make a post to probably what, 20 or 30,000 people by then?
Dude, I've had 50K since like the beginning.
Dang. All right. So you would make a
Yeah,
post to
it
50,000
hasn't
people.
grown. It hasn't grown in years. I
Yeah.
lose more followers than I gain at this point because a lot of people tell me, like, I brought this up to like some social media nerds, like who like really get into it. I've never really been into it. It was all
Yeah.
like real, like I didn't really try, other than being like regimented on a schedule, who say like when I lose more followers than I gain, it's people like deleting their Instagrams,
Sure.
or it's people who like sold their Instagrams
Sure.
or
Yeah.
something like that. And
Yeah.
then it's fake followers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
A
don't
lot of,
have a lot of fake followers,
but
but
everybody does.
everybody does. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's
So
just part of it, I
yeah,
guess.
so all right, so you had 50,000 followers. You would post a beautiful picture on your Instagram, with a link in the bio to the website, and someone out of the 50,000 would come over, they would buy the item, and that would give you a jump start on the day where on some days, if you're going to sell something for $300, your overhead wasn't tremendously high. You would
Yeah.
still be profitable for the
Yeah.
day at your brick and mortar store just by selling one item on the website. So
That was like my cheat code, man, because I got the Instagram post for the day out of it,
mhm,
and I got the jump start on like, okay, well, at least I can pay the day's rent and my
sure.
salary for the day immediately.
Sure. So
And
go ahead.
and I was like, I was like silly with it, dude. I like went over the top for like a while. Like, dude, I would have like a yellow jacket and I would ride around in my car until I found like the ground that had like a patch of yellow to like contrast the yellow in the jacket. And
Hmm.
like, I was like a kook, but like you can scroll back to like 2018, 2019 in my Instagram feed and like you'll see what I'm talking about. Like I really tried for a little bit
And also
to do that.
something cool that you did was that you have, extensive knowledge on a lot of this stuff beyond surface level. And you would say you would find a celebrity or a shirt that was worn in a movie, and you
Yeah.
would match those up too. And I thought that those posts were really cool. So I guess, how did you, I guess, gain that knowledge or do that research? Or is that something you just have a steel trap memory and you're like, hey, Will Smith wore this shirt on this episode, and I have it, some sort of, Nike Spike Lee or something. How do you go about that? Because I bring that up because in the morning call today, we do show and tell on Wednesday. And the guy Zach, he sold a mountain shirt, the tie-dye ones, the
Yeah.
mountain shirt. He sold one of those for like $50 because it's the one with the horses on it, the purple one that was worn in the movie by, who's that guy? Anchorman. Will Ferrell.
Oh,
Will
Will
Ferrell
Ferrell.
wore it
Yeah,
in a movie, and he sold it for $50 because he knew the shirt was from a movie. So I
that's
guess,
it.
how do you find out that information? Because if a celebrity does wear an item, overnight it can go through the moon. I mean, we've seen it with Travis Scott. Anything he
Yeah.
touches to the moon.
Yeah.
Kanye West, anything he touches
Yeah.
to the moon. There's a Dune Brook kind of like faux fur jacket that Rihanna wore that
Oh yeah.
overnight went to $600. And
Yeah, the one
I
with like the
found it a
faces
couple
on it.
with all the faces on it. So I
Yeah.
guess, how do you keep up with that stuff, or when you did keep up with it, or how did you learn that type of stuff? Because I thought those were really cool posts when you
Yeah.
could show a celebrity or someone famous or in a movie wearing the shirt, and then you have the shirt. And I know when you come over to my store, you pick out something and you're like, oh, this guy wore this and this comes kind of obscure movie, and I'm like, I have no idea, dude. How do
Just
you
being a nerd, dude.
being a nerd?
And like I mean, this is not to take anything away from anybody who's younger than me. Like I'm becoming like the old dude doing this, you know what I mean? But I really lived it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like I remember the Source magazine. I
sure.
remember, heavy metal magazines. I remember looking at that stuff when I was a kid. I remember skate magazines from the mid 90s to the early 2000s and what people were wearing. So with the internet, I would remember, oh, like there was a photo of the one that just immediately pops into my head is Anthony Van Engelen doing a Switch 5.0 on a ledge wearing a Tommy Hilfiger box logo t-shirt. So I remembered that, and like that's one I remembered immediately. A lot of like Wu-Tang stuff I remember just because they were so like in the fashion thing in the late 90s where I was like getting my start and I was looking at that a lot. It's just being a nerd, dude, and like
Yeah.
when
Dude,
other those early years of me like really getting serious about the business, like most people are watching a movie on a DVD player at that time. I'm scrolling through Google images of and I learned how to search that where like I could find photos that like a lot of people hadn't seen, you know.
mm,
I learned how to like kind of like backwards search Google images, which is
yeah.
like another story.
So, all right. So you have the store, and this was around the time where I was following you. I was watching the stuff that you were buying. I was watching the photos, and I remember you posted on there that you were invited to headline at ThriftCon, and ThriftCon was in my neck of the woods in Miami. So we're about 5 hours away, just to give people some context. And ThriftCon was in Miami, and a friend of mine, he wanted to go to ThriftCon, so I said, all right, I'll walk around because like I'm not a ThriftCon guy. You're not really a ThriftCon guy, but hey, they gave you the opportunity. You went out there, so I went over there and I saw your booth, fantastic booth. You had your booth was popping. There was a lot of people over there, maybe the most amount of people, and I think you sold out in like an hour or 2 hours. So you crushed it over there. But I didn't know who you were. I didn't know if it was actually full court or a worker for full court. So I
Sure.
didn't even stop by. I didn't even say anything to you. I just saw what you had. I kept it pushing. Nobody knew who I was back then. I didn't show my face anywhere. You didn't show your face anywhere. So I saw you, but I kept it pushing. And then a couple months later, you wrote me on Instagram and you said, "Hey, I've been following you for a long time. I didn't know you have a brick and mortar store, but I've been following the store for a long time. I want to head over and check it out." I said, "Sure, no problem. Check it out." So what was your perception of the brick and mortar store that would, because I talk about this a lot in the group. Like, I'm not afraid to drive 5 hours to go get some stuff. I'm not afraid to drive an hour. I'm not afraid to drive 3 hours. I mean, if you don't have stuff where it's at, you got to go to where it's at. And you have stuff where you're at, but you saw an opportunity to go from your brick and mortar store to my brick and mortar store because our stores are set up a little bit differently. Your store is set up to command a certain price. My store is set up to command a certain price. And between those two setups, those two business models, our business models are totally different. There's an arbitrage for you to be able to find cool stuff at my store, bring it over to Tampa, and give people the good news. So I guess what made you, I guess, take that leap the first time of doing a 10-hour round trip? Because it could have been a bus. You could have came over here, wasted 10 hours of your life, drove back and forth, and found nothing. So I guess, how did you gauge the opportunity that, this may have some potential? Because you didn't know me. We didn't know each other personally. That was the
No,
first time we ever spoke on social media.
yeah.
So I guess, why did you take that leap that has ultimately paid off tremendously for the business, not only yours, but it's also mine?
So if I can remember correctly, it was about 6 months before COVID is the first time I came down there.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I remember I was coming down there like getting out of my car to get a coffee and putting on a mask.
I
And
remember
I had
that too.
already been down there half a dozen times.
Yeah,
So it had to be about 6 months before COVID. We kind of like the t-shirt thing happened because of COVID,
right.
but
So
we kind
bring people
of
up to
like
speed. What's the t-shirt thing because of COVID?
the vintage t-shirt boom,
Hmm.
where any pop culture t-shirt was $100.
Yeah,
That was ridiculous. I
yeah.
mean, that did not exist, dude.
No.
Where any cartoon t-shirt, any music t-shirt,
Disney shirts for
any
500, a
Disney
thousand
t-shirt.
bucks. Right.
It was ridiculous. It was completely fake. It was crazy.
That was
But
a result of people being at home, stimulus money,
yep,
wanting to buy shirts. And when you got
yep,
a bunch of people with a couple dollars in their pocket, it's classic supply and demand.
yep.
You got one person holding up a Disney shirt, you got 30 people in the chat that want it. You were breaking records on a daily basis on items that 6 months prior people were discarding and didn't care about. So
Yeah, they were
the
$40 t-shirts, dude, straight up.
sure.
But
So like,
the weird thing is we kind of like saw the t-shirt thing coming,
mhm.
right? So this was when I had the Clearwater store, the store that you originally went to. And it was weird, man. Like I couldn't, we were never really t-shirt relate like based. You know what I mean? It was always branded stuff. Polo, Tommy Early, outerwear. It was always like online, kind of not Florida based. And then all of a sudden, dude, like early 2019, dude, we just started selling like a lot of t-shirts, like more t-shirts than we'd ever sold. And I never really like, if I found a cool t-shirt, 9 times out of 10, I stuck it in a bin and like forgot about it. I didn't put a lot of that stuff in my store early on. And dude, I mean, we went from selling a Disney t-shirt for 25 bucks, it'd sell first day. 40 bucks, it would sell first week. Okay, this is crazy. We put it at 60 bucks. It'd sell first week. And I was just like, dude, I can't supply the demand that we're currently selling t-shirts at. So your store came to me through my employee that worked at the time. He's like, "Yo, have you ever seen this? Have you seen that this opened in South Florida?" And I'm just like, "No, I have not." And he showed me the photo, and it was just like three double-sided racks of t-shirts. And I
Yeah,
was like, "Holy, like
yeah,
that's what I need." Like I can't go to a thrift store and find 100 t-shirts. So I knew that if I could go down there, find 100 t-shirts, I wouldn't have to worry about t-shirts for the month. Then the 100 t-shirts became, I need to find 200 t-shirts. Then we opened the Houston store and I was sourcing vintage for them, and it became, I have to find 300 t-shirts. Then we opened New Orleans and I had to find 400 t-shirts. And yeah, dude, it was t-shirts, man. You had
So
rows and rows and rows and rows of t-shirts, and I was just like, this is crazy. And dude, I mean, 2019 through 2021, I'm not taking anything away from the store now, but you could go in your store and find the best t-shirts for $10.
for the best price. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could have thrifted, and like at first, like my wife and kids didn't understand it. They're like, why are you working a 20-hour day to buy t-shirts when you could just go thrift? And I'm like, it doesn't really work like that, man. Like,
Yeah. Well, the difference is that, a thrift store has 300 feet of racks of t-shirts. They don't even have 300 feet of rack of t-shirts.
not
I do.
anymore.
So
Yeah.
let's say every thrift store has 30 feet
100.
of racks.
Yeah.
This much of it is going to be in the ballpark of what you need. This much of it you're going to take home, zero.
Yeah.
Where my store was like not curated, but it was already picked through where like I've eliminated the 30 feet, I've eliminated this, and I took the one best shirt from every single store, put it into my store. So I had 300 feet of racks where you could just go and every 5 items, it was good
Yeah.
enough for you to take home. So I consolidated for you maybe a month worth of sourcing,
Yeah.
50 thrift stores,
Yep.
and you could just come here, one stop shop, get a great price, go home, have a guy who's easy to work with, welcome you with open arms.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you for coming through.
Yeah. And I mean, it kind of changed the game for me. I can't lie. I've always sold wholesale. I've always had wholesale customers, but I've never bought wholesale because, like you mentioned, it's just not really the way I do it, is to like buy wholesale. It's always one by one. Like I found this, or I bought this for this reason. I bought this because I'm gonna sell this next year with 50 things like it. That's how I've always operated. But like as the store changed and as the store got more busy, dude, I just couldn't supply the demand of a graphic t-shirt by thrifting. And it was the best way because I can drive 5 hours each way to your store, work 5 hours while I'm there, and I can still pick everything that I sell.
Yeah,
I can
absolutely.
personally touch every item and say, you know, I
Yeah.
co-sign. I co-sign this t-shirt. I want to be
And
able
that's
to do
something that is very, very important to you is that, you have to co-sign it. What you think is cool goes into your store. You don't care if anyone else thinks it's cool. You
that. I
think
do.
it's cool, it goes into your store and somebody will buy it. And I have like a joke within myself. I'll be sourcing or I'll get stuff in and I'll see a shirt and I'll go to myself, oh, this is a Corby shirt. And the last one I did that with was a black shirt, Fruit of the Loom, that had some point siennas on the front. It was
Oh
single
yeah.
stitch. And I said, oh, this is a Corby shirt.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
one else in the entire world wants that shirt. But
Bro, I sold that shirt yesterday.
of course.
I sold
So
it yesterday. I'm
as
not
you
kidding
should,
you.
I
Yeah.
know. So I see this shirt, proper fade, nice collar, single stitch, great tag, some royal point siennas on the front. And I said, this has Corby's name
Yeah.
all over it.
That was a
And
cool shirt.
it's a great shirt. It's a
Yeah.
great shirt, but you can't sell it on eBay,
Nope.
and not many other stores can sell that shirt aside from you. But
Yeah.
when I see that type of item when I'm out there, there's a lot of times where I go, "Oh, this is a Corby shirt. This is a Corby shirt." And
Yeah.
whenever
Yeah.
you come, I already got a stack for you waiting like this. And
Yeah.
99% of the stuff you go, "Yep, perfect, 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 perfect,
Yeah.
perfect." So, all right, so you started coming over, and then when you came over, I went to the store, I met you, shook your hand, thanked you for doing business with me for like, I don't know, 8 years at that point.
Yeah.
We kind of connected a lot of dots between each other because we've done a lot of purchases. I sent you a lot of stuff. Um, Followed you on Instagram for a while. You followed me on Instagram for a while. You came down, did good business, and you've been coming down like every single month. After that, we always hit the store. We go to Taco Bell. That's kind of our routine. But you are maybe the only person if you're not the only person, there's like maybe one or two more. You might be the only person who has seen my entire business Ruta tuta tuta at the peak. And
Yeah.
you told me, you said, hey, I used to follow you on Instagram. I used to see you shipping out all these packages. I used to think it was cap. You used to
Yeah,
think I
dude.
was full of it until when?
From somebody who really has lived the life of you got to sell something online to pay your electric bill.
Yeah,
I've been there. I have truly been there. My wife will attest to this, me saying like, oh man, like it's got to be a good eBay month because I don't know what we're gonna do. I've been there. And to see the stuff that you posted on Instagram in real life was crazy. And I mean, so crazy that like when I was first going, I would always share you on my Instagram and tag you, and I would have other dudes on our level of like doing this message me and be like, "There's no way,"
there's
and
no way.
I'm just like, I said the same thing until I saw it.
So what's
It's,
funny is the first couple times you were coming, you still thought it was cap. You because
I
all you
did,
saw was the store
I
until
did.
the day where you came to my house
Yep.
because I said, hey, I'm gonna be late to go to the store because I'm the only one home and I gotta wait for the mail pickup. They should be here in a couple of minutes. Just come by the house. And when you came by the house, what happened?
This is the story I always tell people. That's the craziest part. They sent their own mail truck to your house that was empty.
The big
I'm
one.
like, bro, I have sold tens of thousands of pieces of clothing on the internet at this point in my life. This was years ago. And
Yeah.
now I might have sold 100,000 pieces of clothing on the internet at this point in my life. I've never seen anything like that. A post truck, not a UPS truck showing up to Supreme to take, Thursday's packages. This was a post truck,
The big one. The big one.
empty.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, holy crap, dude. Like, I didn't know they did that, you
And
know?
then when you came, I said, hey, don't just stand there. You got to jump in. And we scanned all the packages. And the whole
Yeah,
time
dude.
you were going, you would go, is this every day? And I go,
Yeah.
Corb, it's Wednesday. So I ship every single day. This is every day. And then
So,
go
so
ahead.
even after the first couple of times of me seeing it, I was like, okay, he must ship on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Yeah.
And dude, after like six times of seeing it, I was just like, this is really crazy. I've never seen anything like this, and I don't think it exists as far as one person selling pre-owned clothing on the internet. I don't think it exists, dude.
And then,
I'm sure that there's like brands at this point and like companies who sell out of a warehouse, a big warehouse
yeah,
that
with
are
like
doing
50 employees. Yeah.
right, dude. Right. You have a shipping department and you have
Right.
a photo department
You
and
have HR.
yeah, exactly, dude. As far as like a dude with his wife and one employee selling 300 things a day, I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't think I don't think anybody else is gonna like match that, dude. It's
So,
too much work.
so after that, if that was not mind blowing enough, you went to the warehouse, and the warehouse for people that like go there for the first time is kind of like, like when Rafiki holds up Simba and he's like, everything that the light touches is yours. Like the racks just go for as far as you can
It-
see.
yeah. Yeah, that was wild. The majority of it was eBay stuff,
Yeah.
which is not what I buy off you. But just to see that sheer quantity of product that had been like sourced,
Yeah.
processed,
Yeah.
photoed, listed was wild. Was wild. It was wild, dude. I own a lot of it at this point, but I feel like I have a ton of stuff, but like that was like truly a ton of stuff. And it had all been, processed.
Yeah.
And that part is the part that I was like, wow, like this is crazy. And I still don't get your method. As many times as I went in there and dug, and you explained it to me, like, don't put that hanger there, put that hanger there.
Yeah,
I still don't get it. And now it doesn't exist, so I'll never get it.
you'll never get. And you're also one of the only ones that seen me have that demon on me every single time because you come on Sundays most of the time.
Yep.
And a lot of times I'm like, hey, Corb, I got to cut this short. I got to go ship. And
That's
I'm at the
crazy.
warehouse and you see me shipping till 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night after you leave. Can't escape that eBay demon because it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling.
Yeah, and the fact that you shipped same day was wild.
Yeah.
That's wild too.
I had to because if I didn't ship same day, there was no way I was going to be able to catch up. I would
It
be
was
done
just time,
forever. Yeah,
right?
there's no way. So you were the only one. You've also seen the receiving when I get stuff in the black bags and we
Oh
would
yeah,
source through
yeah,
all of that stuff. So
yeah.
you saw the receiving. It came through beautiful, perfect, zip button, washed, ready to sell. You've seen the photo process, the warehouse at the peak, and the brick and mortar store. And as someone who's been in the game for a long time, you've said, I've never seen anything like this. And I wear that as a badge of honor. This is
Yeah.
something that Corby has never seen in his entire life.
I've seen a lot, dude, and I've seen a lot of people's operations, lots of different facilities that deal in pre-owned clothing, and I just don't think that it can be replicated. You know what
Extremely
I mean?
difficult.
I don't think that the only way it can be replicated is with a serious staff.
Yeah.
No person is going to do that by themselves. And I mean, I've said to everybody who's asked me, that's my opinion. I don't think it can be done. You have
I
to be so. Do you watch that show, The Bear?
No, I never seen it.
It reminds me of you because there's like a sign on the wall in the restaurant that says every second counts.
Yeah.
And that like kind of like if you aren't that tuned in, there's no way you can list 300 things in a day. There's no
Yeah. Very,
There's
very
absolutely
tough.
no way. I mean, every second counts at that point because there's only 24 hours in a day. You got to sleep a couple hours a day,
Yeah.
or you'll die. You have to
Yeah.
eat or you'll die. Like, I don't know how you did it, dude. Still to this day, it amazes me. I talk
Just did
about it
it
a
at the
lot.
end of the day. Just did it. So, all right. So after the Clearwater store, you and I, we started to do business. Did you get the St. Pete store first, or did you get the Houston store next? What was the evolution of business?
Houston came first.
All right, so we're still in Clearwater in the store in the corner. I visualize it in my head, still with the store in the corner. And then you got a new location in Houston. So how did that come about? And I guess after that, what are the complexities about doing business in multiple steps or multiple states? Because that is a humongous undertaking. I mean, it's different where if I was to open up a new store, let's say in Boca Raton, 20 minutes up the road, that's no problem. But we're talking, what is it, a 18-hour drive if you got to go there? It's a full day between going to the airport and landing. It's a bunch of different complexities. So like, how did that come about? What are the complexities, and why was that the first jump from the store in Clearwater? Let's just rock and roll and go to Texas.
It's actually a funny story, man. So a dude, not a kid, a dude that I followed on Instagram and we communicated for years, dude. He always like, I don't want to sound like this guy, but he would always say like, "Oh man, like you inspire me and yada yada, like I want my Instagram to look just like yours." And he was always super super positive. His name's Luke. The Instagram at the time was called Legit Fits. We communicated weekly for 5, 6 years, and we were always super friendly. One day he hit me up and was just like started talking to me about a store. And he's like, like, do you have any advice? And yada yada. And I was just like, uh, not really, dude. Like this the same stuff I'm saying here, sell what you like and back what you sell and be kind. And out of nowhere, I was just kind of like, yeah, if you open up a store, you should open up a full court. And he was like, done. Like literally just responded, done. And I was like, okay, like I'm serious. And he was like, I'm
Yeah.
serious too. The next week, him and his wife got in their car and drove from Houston to Pinellas County, Florida, which is an 18-hour drive, just to
Wow.
have a meeting with me and my wife. And I was just like, well, these people are very serious.
Sure.
And it just went from there, dude. We figured it out, and they're 50% owners and I'm a 50% owner.
Nice. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, what are the logistics between having two stores so far apart?
It's not easy, dude. It's not really worth it. Like it's not we kind of bring in our what's the best way to put this? In our situation, we kind of bring different skills to the table.
Hmm.
By that time, I was getting serious with like the store merch. So like he's super good at finding vintage, and I kind of brought well, I can help you brand your store and sell things that say your name on them, that
Hmm.
you don't have to go out into a rag house and dig all day to find 50 pieces.
Right.
I can send you 50 of the same shirt. You can sell it 50 times.
Right.
It kind of goes against the whole like we're recycling clothes thing, which I stand behind a lot. I stand behind that a lot. But there's a difference in like us making 100 t-shirts that say our store's name, selling it to people who really want to wear that, who are going to wear that for years and maybe pass it down to their kid or give it to their girlfriend or whatever. There's a big difference in that and like reprinting a Tupac t-shirt and putting it in the mall.
Sure.
There's a big difference there. So that's like a different story, but like I wanted to mention like we do make our own merch, but we still are very serious about recycling clothing and keeping as much clothing as possible out of landfills.
So, all right. So you got the store in Houston. It's been there for what, 3 or 4 years now?
Yeah, going on 4. Yeah.
4 years. And that store's Instagram. If anyone gives you a run for the money, it's that store's Instagram. That store's
Oh,
Instagram is
dude.
beautiful. I love the way that they integrate the plants into it, into the whole store, into the whole ambiance, into the whole setup. And that's something that you're very good at too. And I've watched you set up 3 stores now from the ground up. Um, I don't know what store it was. Maybe it's the New Orleans store, but one day offhanded comment, you go, dude, I had to sell a lot of t-shirts to pay for that finish on the floor. It was like,
No, no, no. That's this store.
oh, this.
This store, we own the building. So
Yeah.
like the build out of this store was like crazy, like a little bit crazier than all of them. Like Houston is just like a super shocking like entrance. Like you walk in and it's really big. The ceilings are like twice as high as these ceilings. The walls are really big. They're far apart. Like it's the biggest store. So like that's kind of like that what that one had going for it like immediately. Like it might be too much space, but they've done such an amazing job at like
Yeah, it's
just
beautiful.
filling the space in like a tasteful way without just I know I have vintage t-shirts hanging behind me without just hanging vintage t-shirts all over the wall and
That's what
like
I do.
yeah. But no,
No,
beyond
but my store is different though.
it
My
is different.
store, my store is at a certain price point. Your store is at a certain price point, and a lot of that depends on exactly what you're talking about. For me, I throw it on the wall, I can get X price. For you, you go there, it's more of an experience. My store leans more like towards a thrift store that has cool stuff. Your store is absolutely 100% curated and it's an absolute experience. So if people want to check out that one, it's Full Court Houston is
Yep.
the Instagram on that. And for people who are listening, if you want to learn vintage, follow these accounts, follow these stores, because these are ones that I follow, that I look at, that I check in on, that I get the pulse of what's cool, what's not cool. Like you guys were posting Carhartt jackets before they were cool. Like the stuff you guys are posting now is going to be cool down the line. So check out, this is how you learn stuff. And once you start following these types of accounts, Instagram is brilliant. They'll start prompting you more accounts. And then now you're going to follow this store and this guy and this thing. And then you can get immersed in it and you can start learning about it. So, so now you have Full Court in Clearwater, the store in the corner. You have Full Court in Houston. Now, Houston, there's been challenges. They've come in there and taken stuff from you. So as a business owner, how do you navigate and deal with that too? Because that's got to suck to wake up in the morning and you get a text with the good news that says, "Hey, they came in and got us."
Yeah, there's no real way to deal with that. It's really lame. I I don't get it. You know, I was a bad kid. I did a lot of dumb stuff when I was a kid, but I never stole from like a small business.
Hmm.
Especially like the people in Houston are, I mean, everyone in all of my stores are very kind to everybody who comes in, but they're such kind people. And like anytime they've ever got hit, it was definitely somebody who'd been in their store
Of course,
probably within that week,
of course,
probably with Luke or Katie or Nate standing behind the register, smiling at them, asking them how their day was. I
sure.
just find it all super lame. And there's no real way to deal with it, man. Like it's rough, dude. Somebody breaks your door, it's 1,500 bucks, man. Somebody breaks your window, it's 3 grand.
Yeah,
Somebody comes in and, dude, one time they came in and only got half of the shoe.
I remember.
They only stole the right shoe.
So they
But
they ran into the box to the back, took the shoe boxes. Only the right shoe was in there because the left shoe was on display.
exactly, dude. So, dude, I mean, it was like a $15,000 hit, but we still had half the shoe, you know?
Right.
Like it's so it's very demoralizing.
That's a good word.
Yeah, and it's been hard.
Yeah.
But as of recently, we've kind of like moved fully into apparel as like footwear has kind of like slowed down. Out there is really just apparel based and they crush it, dude. There's a lot of vintage stores at this point. I am definitely not claiming to have the best selection of vintage by any means, but in my stores, but they have a very solid selection of vintage, man. From
And
true vintage to Y2K, what like the high school kids want to wear. Like
sure.
they have a very vast selection of vintage in there. It's
And
impressive.
and real quick,
Can
just
we
shout
take
out
like a
to
3 minute break?
all right. So I just want to mention shout out though to the people in Houston though, because after that happened, they came out full force with a huge amount of support for you in the following weeks. Where like net, it
Yeah.
ended up being all right. So,
Yeah.
shout out to those folks who support the store, support the community, support you guys, small business. You guys are in there every single day working, getting it in, and that's the name of the game. All right. So after that, then you got the St. Pete store where you're at now, right? So after Houston, then came St. Pete. And that one is a little bit different because you're no longer a renter. Now you bought the building, you own the
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
That is a humongous accomplishment. And putting pen to paper on the dotted line for a mortgage for decades out in the future, and you sell clothes. Holy cow.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy to think about, but yeah, you got to think like long term, you know? And I mean, believe me, I plan on selling clothing when I'm 70 years old, but I
Dude,
also,
let me stop you there because we were talking about like being officially old and the old heads.
yeah.
Dude, this weekend I got into my car, and for my entire life, Power 96 has been Miami's party station. I got into my car, no warning. The next day I turn on my car, it says Miami's new home for throwback music. They didn't change the music. The music say so it hit me, dude. It hit me. You said you'll be selling clothes for 80 years old. When we are 80 years old, Jay-Z and Tupac will be on the oldie station.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine that.
It's changed a lot already, dude, and it changes faster than I can keep up with at this point. Like the what is considered like cool to the internet was like what was lame when I was a kid.
South Pole. Dude, you would get rode in, joked on, bullied if you was wearing South Pole back in
That
the day
was
because they
not,
sold that at J.C. Penney.
yes. Same with Jinko, dude. I mean, that's where you bought it was JC Penney's. It was they were 120 bucks and they were always on sale for $60 at JC
Mm-hmm.
Penney's, you know? And I mean, the same thing you can say with like what I've sold and what I've made my, business model around. I mean, you still go into Macy's and Polos on sale, but it's just changed so much. I can't keep up with it anymore. I still sell the same thing I sold back in the day, and thank God it works. You know what I mean?
We're,
I
we're on
I,
the
I haven't
precipice. We're on the
haven't
precipice.
transitioned into like what's cool on the internet right now.
No, you haven't. You pass a lot of stuff that I go, this will sell, and you go, nah. A couple times you have taken a gamble
Yeah,
on me, and it has paid off,
it
but
has.
dude, we have reached the precipice because the shirt from this morning, the mountain shirt that Will Ferrell wore, it had a screen print tag and a trademark that said 2003, officially vintage with a screen print tag. Like it's
That's
over.
crazy. It's
It's
crazy.
over.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy.
all right, so you bought the building, you signed on the dotted line, you signed your life away to do this for the next couple of decades, sell clothes when you're 80 years old. What is the feeling of the culmination of all the work you had put a decade plus? You have, a beautiful wife that stands by your side. You guys have a blended family with 3 kids. You are doing so well. This is how you know when a guy is doing well. He raised all of his kids to high school and said, you know what? I'm gonna do it again. And you had another kid fresh out the gate. He just turned 1 years old this weekend, 1 or 2.
He did.
1 years old.
One. Yep.
And this
It's
guy said, you
awesome.
know what? I'm gonna rewind and start it all over. So raised a beautiful family, beautiful life, beautiful kids, and now you have your own place. What was the feeling of signing the dotted line and then walking into that place for the first time of it being your own place forever?
Uh, it was just very anxious. Like, man, is this gonna work? Like,
Yeah,
we went from having an $1,100 rent in Clearwater to a mortgage, you know,
sure.
and it was just a very anxious feeling, man. It all kind of went away when we did our grand opening and just saw the like wild support. I mean, I've had a lot of grand openings for stores at this point. I going back to being as a kid and having like sneaker releases and, managing that. It was wild. It was really wild. We had a line to check out until 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Whoa, that's
Yeah,
cool.
dude, it was crazy. And it was in January and it was like 30 degrees and raining.
Wait, in
And
Florida,
people
ain't
were
nobody coming
still,
outside in that.
people were still lined up down the
Wow.
street for hours. And I was just like, okay. And like my anxiety kind of just like floated away. But it was very anxious for the 3 months of like getting the store set up, getting all of the product together, laying it out, the floor,
Yeah.
painting it, everything, getting all the financial stuff in order. Yeah, it was a
So
learning experience for sure.
you I guess pun intended, but no pun intended, you hit a home run with your location where you could step out your front door and if you have a good arm, you
Yeah,
can throw a baseball and hit the Rays Stadium on one throw on a bounce.
yeah,
And the district, I guess it's like not like a downtown district, but a cool hopping spot where your place is. It's that road in every single city that has a cool hip burrito place, a cool hip pizza place, cool clothes, boutiques, things like that. Um, you crushed it with the location. And I don't know if you had the foresight or if you knew, but now they're going to totally revitalize the Rays
yeah.
Stadium and they're going to move it from right here where it is into over here, like literally right next door. They're going to
I
build
mean,
a
you
huge build
you were
out.
just here with all the construction going on. I mean, I'm like literally watching it right
There's
now.
there's more cranes in the sky that I can count. So
Yeah.
you picked a tremendous location. Was a little bit of that luck? Like, why did you pick that spot in the first place? Because you went from an $1,100 rent payment, which was in the corner next to a Walgreens that went out of business, not on a main road. Now you're in the happening, jumpingest spot in your city, and maybe it never worked and you spent all this money to build out and who knows.
Dude. Yeah, and yeah, like end up renting the space to somebody because we own the
To like
building.
what one of those places. What
Yeah.
I imagine being there if you weren't there, like that kind of district, they need those places where you sit in and you put your feet into the water and they have like little minnows. Like that is the spot. Like that district needs one of those. So like if it didn't work out for you, like now you have to go and now you have to become a landlord and rent it out to somebody else. But thankfully it did work out for you. And you know, you've built a great business. But I guess why did you pick that location and not, I guess why
So
did you go so big?
it's kind of like a long story. And this is what really like made us really anxious about it. Dude, we were gonna close our brick and mortar store in Florida and
The
only
Clearwater
have
one.
Houston.
Oh, this is new to me. I didn't know this.
Yeah, yeah. So we were gonna close our brick and mortar altogether because Clearwater was so slow.
It was out of the way. Like
It was
that
so slow, dude.
that was like a destination. Like you had to make a dedicated trip to go to that store. No one
Yeah,
was driving by and popping in.
exactly. And don't get me wrong, uh we never lost money with that store, but we're smart enough business owners to like know that we could have done the same thing just having a website in Houston,
Sure.
right? So the the choice was originally to either find something that we could afford for rent in Tampa, which is like across the bridge where the Bucks play,
Hmm.
find something over there that we could afford rent wise or close. Could not find anything in Tampa. We didn't like any of the neighborhoods in Tampa. I mean, there's cool neighborhoods over there, but to get where we could, because we wanted to go from not having foot traffic to
To
having foot
having
traffic,
foot traffic. Okay.
or we didn't want to store it anymore
Gotcha.
because it's just you spin your wheels. I could be sitting on my couch after taking photos of 20 pieces, listing things, and making the same amount of money that I was making in Clearwater.
And driving like worldwide traffic to your website versus
Right.
driving a handful of people traffic to some place that's off the beaten path.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we couldn't find anything in Tampa. So we were like about a month away from having to make a decision because we'd already told the landlord of where we were at that we weren't re-signing the lease. So
Hmm.
we did not have a place we had a month. So my homie found this listing and he's like, yo, I think we can make this work, but I don't know about St. Pete. We haven't talked about St. Pete. At the time, there was a couple stores that are down the road from here that were before us being down here, not having stores, but being on this road. They're, a mile down the road. So we found this listing and we were like, I think we can make this work. So me and my wife came down 5 or 6 different times and sat at the ice cream spot across the street
Smart.
at 5 different times in the day
And
and
just
watched
watched.
foot traffic in front of the building. And
Yeah.
we're like, holy,
Yeah.
like, we got to do this.
So
It's
what were you
crazy.
looking for when you were watching the people? Were you looking for your demographic? Were
People
you,
who fit the demographic.
yeah,
And that, and dude, I mean, that doesn't even necessarily matter, bro. I was working the store for a couple hours yesterday, and the first person we sold something to was not in the demographic of who I'm catering to.
sure.
It was a middle-aged man who bought a pair of New Balances.
Nice.
So,
Nice. Like the guy who they're actually made for, not the guys
correct,
who wear them because they're cool.
correct.
That's
Um,
hysterical.
so yeah, dude, me and my wife, there's a taco spot. There was an Italian restaurant that's now become the restaurant that's actually next to it, and an ice cream spot. And we spent hours just sitting in front of the store across the street, watching the foot traffic going back and forth. And we were just like, we have to do this. Like, we have to figure this out.
Wow.
This is going to be life changing. And it really was. It
So
changed everything, man.
so you knew it back
I
then
have
that
I don't mean to interrupt you. I have more people walk in this store on a Wednesday than I would have in Clearwater for a month.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah,
Straight up. And that's like any given month out of the year.
yeah.
It's not really like, oh, well, the summer's slow, because that's been always the thing is like, man, you got to make it through those summer months, man. It's too hot to go outside, yada, yada. Dude, this is like a community. It's a thing to come down here and get a coffee, walk around, and then get lunch and to
Or
put
go to
yourself,
the game.
or to go to the game, whatever,
Yeah,
or the Dali Museum, whatever it
right.
is. To put yourself right in the middle of that, it's the best advice I can give anybody who's going to open a store. In all honesty, it's not worth it unless you have foot traffic.
Location, location, location. That's it.
Yeah,
And
it's that important, dude.
and the reason why I picked the place that my store is in, and you see it, it's right in the
A high
middle of a
school.
high school and the McDonald's. And all the kids leave school and walk down to the McDonald's. Do they come in every single day? No. But do they know the store is there and come back with their parents? Yes. Do they
Yeah,
know the store is there and come back on the weekends? Yes. Do they know the store is there and come back with their older brother or tell somebody else? Yes.
yeah,
So if that school was not there and that McDonald's was not there and I was not in the middle, I would be telling the same story as you that
yeah.
I can't get the foot traffic.
Yeah, you just have to be smart with where you open. If you put a store like this in a strip mall in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah, tough.
it's set up for failure, dude.
Yeah,
It's just set up for failure. It's a vault. Even if you were the kid, and I mean this doesn't really exist anymore as far as I can see, but even if you're the kid who's selling $600 t-shirts and that's what you do, you only have to sell one t-shirt a day to make your money. You definitely aren't doing it in a strip mall in the middle of nowhere, dude. You
well, let's
gotta
talk
have
about
people.
that.
You
Ain't
gotta
nobody
have
selling
people.
$600 t-shirts every day either. So those t-shirts that are behind you and my t-shirts that are in the top row, we'll have those 10 times as long as we'll have a regular item that's on the regular rack.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, it's just never really been my business model, but it's cool to have. It's cool to look at.
Cool to drive traffic for someone to come in and buy 3 regular shirts. That's all I use it for. They're just a billboard.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
that that one day, my favorite customer who will walk in and go, "Give me that one, give me that one, give me that one, give me that one," and cash out. That's
Oh,
the
we were
only
talking.
reason why they
Yeah,
they are there.
yeah, we were talking about that the last time I was there.
All right, so you got St. Pete popping, St. Pete's in the Tampa area, and the name of that Instagram is Full Court St. Pete. You have the nice Pelican. I like that one. I see you got the Manatee Full Court gear on. That's one of my favorite ones too.
I like this one.
And then after that, you opened up the New Orleans store, and
Yeah,
that one's been around for 2 or 3 years now.
dude. Yeah,
2 years. Tell us about that one.
that one's cool, man. It's right next to a really established skateboard shop that we're very good friends with the owner of that. So basically, this spot opened and it has the same landlord that the skate shop has. So they've been there since 1996. So
Wow.
incredible amount of time. And the owner basically was just like, I want to pick who goes in this space. And that's how that one kind of came up. We own all of that one. It's not like the Houston deal where there's, other owners involved. We own all of that one. And it's cool, man. It's right in the French Quarter, dude. It's like walking distance to all the historical stuff in New Orleans.
Ooh.
Like
Now,
short walking distance.
so you have the St. Pete store, the Houston store, the Tampa store, and it's interesting how you source for them because you'll say, okay, this goes to St. Pete, this goes to Tampa, this goes to Houston. I guess how do you figure out what goes where? Because sometimes you'll say like Jabots, of course, those are going to go to New Orleans. Or maybe something that's a little bit of a larger size, you'll say, okay, this one's going to go to New Orleans. Or all the Black Harley shirts, those go to Texas. Or like, how do you divvy it up based on like the difference of the clientele and the customers? You would think that, okay, a vintage store, you put vintage, but it's not that simple. It's all different customers and clientele.
Basically, all of our stores are set up the same. We have a lot of, and I'm probably giving away more information than like
Uh-oh.
people. Like it's whatever. All of our stores are basically set up the same, except for St. Pete. St. Pete does have accounts, so we do have cycle in of new product. We have an account with Birkenstock. We have an account with Stussy. We have an account with Butter. We have an account with FA. Sorry, it's the name of the store or the name of the brand. Carpet Company. And then we carry skateboards also.
Hmm.
So it's slightly different, but vintage wise, all the stores are set up the same. There's one rack of colored t-shirts, there's one rack of white t-shirts, there's one rack of black t-shirts, and then there's racks of bottoms and outerwear, right? It's pretty basic. It's it is what it is. So when New Orleans needs black t-shirts, I send them black t-shirts. When they need white t-shirts, I send them white t-shirts. When they need bottoms, I send them bottoms. It's it,
I'm laughing because you are the only person that I've ever met, and probably the only person on the face of the earth. And I think you know what I'm gonna say.
I do.
That's that sources by color.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, and that's I don't want to say it's like what sets my stores apart, but like I can't do the same thing as everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
sure.
that's not why I own my own business, and that's not why like I do this. It's to be a, a little bit different than everybody. And like, yeah, there's more black t-shirts in this store than probably five stores put together. And it's it's aesthetically pleasing to have
Looks
everything
beautiful. Yeah,
organized in color. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like you go anywhere and things are organized by color, like
Hmm.
it just
But so for I don't know, the last 2 years, I always say, "Hey, Corb, what are you on the lookout for?" So I can be on the lookout. And every single time you say, "I'm looking for black tees," and every single time I say,
I
"Corb, I
don't
don't
sort by
source by
color.
color."
That's funny, man.
I say I don't source by color.
Yeah.
So
Dude,
go ahead.
it just yeah. And still, I'll come to your store and I'll buy 75 black t-shirts and 50 of everything else combined, you
That's
know?
right. And I always try to find a way to make it happen because I do know you do a 10-hour round trip. So like there's a little bit of pressure on me to perform. And I think so far, knock on wood, you've been happy with every single trip. But I guess let to just wrap it up, close it up. You've built a beautiful business for your whole family, very successful, doing exactly what you wanted to do since, illegally working at 14 years old, illegally operating a brick and mortar store with no cash register, not accepting sales tax, to having multiple locations in different states that are legit,
They
having
are.
a mortgage for your own building that has an apartment on the top that you also own, a mixed use building. Um, I guess speak a little bit to I guess lack for a better word, but it's the best way that I can describe it with one of the pillars to your success, I believe, in addition to the beautiful pictures, the beautiful social media following, the beautiful store setup, is the discipline and how meticulous you are with the product that you're putting inside of your spaces. I I can count, I think, on two fingers the amount of times that I convinced you to take something or try something on two fingers. Now,
Oh,
I say this to make the point to bring it around to people who go to thrift stores and resell. If the product is not right, you have to go somewhere else. You
yeah.
cannot accept less than. You cannot accept a slower sell through. You cannot accept a lesser brand. You have to leave it on the rack, have the discipline, and go to another location, go to another store, drive another hour, whatever it takes in order to get good product for your store. If you came down here, I could fill your car every single week with a
Oh,
bunch
yeah.
of stuff that you do not want. But
Yeah.
you say no, 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 no. And sometimes I try. You got to give me credit. Sometimes
Of
I
course.
try. But you say no, 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 no. How do you stay so disciplined, so meticulous, even when it means it's going to cost you a whole bunch more time trying to find the stuff that you're going to try to find?
So I'll answer that question, but I kind of want to like touch on that for like the people who may be watching this. I don't recommend to anybody that you operate your business the way that I operate my business. I don't think that it's the right way to do it at all. And I mean, I'll extend that as in like I don't eat meat, but I basically tell everybody that it's a stupid decision because it makes your life harder. You know what I mean? Like if you don't eat meat, it's very hard to go out to eat and it's very hard to like get the calorie count that you need and all this like I don't really care about that like my wife bothers me about. So I just like kind of like make things difficult on myself. And like if you're the if like your audience is watching this and being like, "Oh, well, I'm only going to start selling things that I find cool." I don't think that that works for
That's
anyone.
not the way on eBay.
I think that you go into a thrift store and if you can make $5 on something that you spend $5 on, like you're doing your job. You do that. This is just like the path that I took. And like I've always kind of like been like an obsessive compulsive person. So like it works for me. Like I can like tune it in and I can be like I'll give you an example. I didn't sell a white t-shirt from August of last year till June of this year. I did not sell a white
Well, let me
vintage t-shirt.
clarify that. You didn't stock white t-shirts, therefore you didn't sell them.
Correct.
Right.
I
So it's not like people came into
every
your store and didn't buy the white tees. You, by choice,
every
did not
white
allow them in the
t-shirt
store.
that I bought from you, that I thrifted, that I bought from someone else, went into my garage and I saved them.
Yep.
Like that's absurd.
Yeah.
No one else would do that.
Yeah.
And it was just to literally take one photo of like 300 white t-shirts.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend anyone else to do that. It's ridiculous, but it works for me, and like it makes me feel like I'm like doing more than I'm actually doing. I don't know. It just works.
Yeah,
But
but
as far as like staying like I don't mean to interrupt you, but as far as like
staying disciplined and turning down stuff that you know is not for you, even when it's close, you still every single time shut it down and say that's not for me.
I just wouldn't tell people that that's the way to do it. I would tell
No,
people that
but no, but it is the way to do it because you can go to the thrift store and you know how much garbage you could buy.
sure.
But we have to buy stuff that meet the metrics. And what I'm trying to say is you have your set of metrics, which is the Corby cool factor. Is this cool enough for Houston? Is this cool enough for New Orleans? Is this cool
Sure.
enough for St. Pete? And that's the same thing as an eBay seller. Is it going to sell in 90 days? Is it going to give me
Yeah.
X amount of dollars of profit? Because you can be forgiving and go, you know what? This is going to get me a $12 profit and it's going to sell in 8 months. If that's your business model, fine. But if it's not, then you need to leave that thing on the rack. So you have a particular business model, a particular set of standards for you, your store, what goes online. And if it does not hit those parameters, what I'm trying to get across is like, if it doesn't check all of those boxes, it is an automatic no, and you're
Yeah.
unemotional and you don't care.
I don't know. I don't really have any advice for that. That is a
But
good question.
but
I don't know.
that's where you found your success. I'm telling you
Yeah.
from the outside looking in, because you could have stuff in your store that is less than or not as cool, not as hip as the stuff that you stock, and your business would be totally different.
It would be. I guess my answer to that would be like consistency.
Okay.
I guess being consistent. Pick what you're going to do and and really go with it. You know,
That's
like
it. Right.
I know like what I want it to look like when you walk in here. Down to I know what I want it to smell like when you walk in here.
So you can see all that stuff in your head. You know
I can see
exactly what it
all
needs
of
to
that in
be.
my head and like I always going back to like a kid and like playing with GI Joes and like setting up all of the blue GI Joes together to setting up all the red GI Joes on this side to all of the multicolored GI Joes on this side. Like I've
Right.
always kind of had that And like I, I just I don't think it's like necessary to be successful in doing this. I think the part that is necessary to be successful is to be consistent.
Yeah.
If you're gonna buy every Robert Graham shirt in the thrift store, buy them all and control that market. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you pay $4 for one, cool. If you go into a thrift store and it's $12 and you know you can still get 25, buy it because you add them together and now they're both $8 a piece and you can still get $25 for them. You got
Right.
to think like that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I agree.
And,
All
and
right.
and and
Well,
that's like speaking to your audience and like what
right.
they do.
Exactly. Yeah, the consistency is everything, and that is what I owe all of my success is just waking up and getting after it every single day. Just I'm not a genius. I'm not gifted. I just got after it with brute force on a daily
Yeah.
basis, and that's just the name of the game. And a lot of times you have to take chances, take some gambles like you did, and all of your stores are doing great and they're doing beautiful, and I just can't say it enough. Is that you have not worked a quote unquote real job and you have found the way to live your life how you want to live it and you're going to do it till you're 80 years old. And for me, man, I absolutely respect that, man. And
Thank you, man.
so, all right, leave these
I'm
folks with
very,
some.
I'm very grateful and very blessed. And thank you
Absolutely.
to you, man. I mean, you helped me get to where I am. If it wasn't for you, I don't think I would have multiple stores, to be honest with you, because I wouldn't be able to put enough product in them the way that I buy, you
Oh,
know? So thank you to you also.
no problem, man. Happy to do so. Happy to help. You're my guy always. And like I said, I am a very loyal person, as are you, as I've grown to find out. We've been doing business for the longest, so you're my number one. If you come through, you need something. This is the guy who's been with me for day one. So
Thank
whatever
you.
you need, I got you. But I guess leave these fine folks with some parting words. Anything you want to tell them, anything you want to let them know, and
I will
just
say this to the
thank you for
future
jumping on,
people.
man.
I will say this to the future people who record an hour and a half podcast. Do it with a chair that has a back.
That helps.
I've been sitting on a stool for an hour and a half,
Yeah.
and
Your back is gonna be blown out for the rest of the day. Dude, you're getting
this
old,
is
Corb.
not for an
Hey,
old guy, man.
the two things that I just noticed makes you old is one, your radio station turns to throwback. Number two, be careful of this one. When you fall down, if they laugh at you, you're still young. If they rush over to help you up, then you're old. So I went on a kayak a couple weeks ago in Silver Springs up by you, and I go to the ramp or whatever, and the guy who I was with is 25, and when he got out, he said, "Hey, do you want me to help you up?"
You're the old guy, dude.
All right, give us some parting words. I know the store's about to open soon. I appreciate you for jumping on with us and hanging out with us. And this is something outside of your comfort zone that you usually don't do. And I know you only do it for me. So I appreciate you helping me out and giving some tips. And a lot of people do ask about the brick and mortar route. So I think that, everything that you said has translate to online sales as well as opening up brick and mortars because there are different challenges and things like that. So I guess hit us with all your Instagrams and hit us with a hot tip, maybe if you can think of one.
Uh, I mean, the Instagrams don't really matter. Don't follow those. It's
I'll give
follow
them out.
some
Full
follow
court
someone
St. Pete,
else.
full court Houston, full court New Orleans, full court classics.
Follow someone else that does better. I just want to thank everybody. If you listen to this, thank you. If you ever have been to one of my stores, thank you. If you ever been to a store, thank you. And yeah, man, keep grinding, keep doing it, keep being consistent, set your times. If you're gonna post at 9 in the morning, post at 9 in the morning. If you're gonna list 25 items on eBay, list 25 items on eBay. Don't take no for an answer, man.
That's it. Don't take no for an answer. All right, Corb. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you,
As
bro.
always, be great. Thank you.
See you in a couple weeks.
Yes, sir.
Later.
Thank you. Thank you.